Hello, my name's Tony and welcome back to Fragdicted. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about another Alexandria fragrance. This is called Nobility. So if you want to hear all about this, stay right where you are. I just wanted to point one thing out to you just quickly. So this was the previous fragrance bottle that I reviewed, and you'll see that the label there is nice and crystal clear, really shiny, lovely black. Now, I didn't know, this got pointed out to me. On this fragrance, you'll see there's a slight clearness and this sort of slight bubbleness to it. That's because it has a cellophane that peels off to make that clear. I'm going to be leaving it on for this review, and the reason for that is I just want to show that in an Instagram post shortly. Welcome again back to the channel. I said I would be back. This is going to be a fairly short, sharp review and tell you a little bit about it and whether I like it or not and what it smells like. Nobility, what is this inspired by? It's inspired by a very expensive fragrance by Roja, and that is Oligarch. Now this has a slight spoiler alert to the whole video. This is genuinely one of the best fragrances that I have ever tried. Now, if you know my taste and when I explain it to you, I think you'll understand why. So it has a real concoction of lots and lots of notes with it. I will quickly run through those. I do think that's quite important because it does give you an idea and a sense of what the complexity of it and what it actually might smell like from those notes. So in the top we have lime, bergamot, lemon, thyme, lavender, juniper and pink pepper. In the mid we have blackcurrant, we have apple, we have orange blossom, we have coconut, we have jasmine and we have lily. In the base we have birch, cedar, tonka, patchouli, leather, violet, musk, oak moss, vanilla and amber. It opens with all of the citrus, literally all of it. It has a real zingy, realistic blast to it that is really fresh, really uplifting, really vibrant and bright. It has this slightly old school, traditional man's cologne vibe going on. That isn't at the forefront, that sits slightly behind. So the lavender and the oak moss and the juniper and the pink pepper give it this aromatic, old school cologne vibe. But like I said, that does sit underneath or behind the other notes. It just makes up a part of what this fragrance is. It has this slight earthiness, and I would have guessed that there is a vetiver and a dry, earthy vetiver. The sort of kind of vetiver you'd find in Terre de Hems, and it does remind me a little bit of that fragrance, and I think that makes up part of why I love it so much, because I am a huge fan of that fragrance in all its forms. I love how it smells on me. I love the way it projects off my skin, and it is probably one of my favorite fragrances I own. So I am bound to like this. Now, it does remind me of another fragrance, and the reason for that is because it has this slight effect that mint has on you. You know when you sniff mint and it clears the sinuses, clears the nostrils, almost like Vicks would, for example. Slightly medicinal, nose clearing smell. Now, this has a little tiny touch of that going on as well. It has this fierceness to it, this earthiness, but this slight medicinal, nose clearing smell, and that reminds me of Viking. That part of it mixed with that old school sort of lavender and cologne style fragrance is why it reminds me of that. So if you went somewhere on one hand between Terre de Hems with the citruses and the dirty vetiver and the earthiness, and then you move it over to Viking with that slightly sort of minty, medicinal and old school cologne vibe, then this sits somewhere in the middle of that. It has a lot more going on though. It has this underlying sweetness to it, and that sweetness is never overdone. I wouldn't say it's an overly sweet fragrance, but it needs that sweetness, and it has that sweetness. The vanilla is there, which I wouldn't call it a vanillic fragrance at all. That really is very faintly done with a deft touch in the background, just to add that slight sweetness. Now the florals in this play a bit of a part. It gives it this slight feel of being somewhere warm on holiday. Now, slightly tropical even. Now, I wouldn't say tropical in the form of somewhere like Hawaii or the Caribbean. It's not an overly sort of fruity or cocktail style fragrance. It still has this slight watery nature to it, rather than it being sort of thick and creamy. That might sound slightly surprising with the coconut in there, but I think the coconut and the florals make me think of sort of something like a watery, rainy, in bloom rainforest. Now, I wouldn't say it's a overly floral fragrance. I wouldn't describe it as a floral fragrance at all, actually. I think they do add to the overall smell and what is going on with it. For me, this is a huge love. It lasts all day. It's piercing, it's slightly sweet, it's slightly old school. It has this vibrance to it that I just absolutely love. So this is going to be very, very difficult to beat, I think, for me this year. And I think it's already gone straight up there. It's going to be in my top 10 fragrances for the year. And we're in February. So what a release from Alexandria. This lasts all day. It's extremely wearable. I think it's extremely versatile. It's so classy. I think it would work so well dressed up in a suit and a tie with a white shirt. But you know what? It's that versatile. I think you could dress it down as well. You could wear a tracksuit very much like I'm wearing today, and it still wouldn't be out of place. I'll stop banging on about it now. It's fantastic. Don't forget to use the code TONY1 if you want to order anything from the website, because that will get you 10% off. Hope you've enjoyed watching my review on Nobility, which is inspired by Roja Dove's Oligarch. Don't forget to like, don't forget to comment, and don't forget to subscribe. And one last thing, don't forget to keep smelling wonderful.